So I will call this public hearing on the millage rate to order. Welcome to all of you. We're getting this right here. We are here to hear your interest, your concerns, any messages you want to give us. As we've been saying, this is now our third public hearing. What the council is setting a millage rate, as you know, for the very first time, and as our finance director is going to give you a little bit of background information. By law, this has to be advertised as a tax increase because we had, since we weren't a city last year, we had a 0 millage rate. So the state interprets that as we've gone from 0 to whatever it is we set as a tax increase. So if you've seen notices for a tax increase, that's the reason why, but in fact, it's not really a tax increase unless we set a millage rate that, I don't know, that somehow raises your taxes. In any case, so does anybody else want to offer a remark? I think you all know that we've all been dedicated to trying to keep our taxes as low as possible and still provide enhanced services. The good news is that our tax digest has come in pretty healthy, and we're excited about that. It's actually about $1.5 million more than what was estimated in our previous feasibility study. So I personally take that as good news that we'll definitely be able to roll back our what the charter sets as our maximum rate of 3.35 mils. I think we'll be able to come in something under that. In any case, this is the decision that we are weighing. There's a lot of moving parts. It's not unlike when you set your budget at home or in your business. We're still trying to figure out exactly all the sources of revenues, some of which don't come in immediately. What is that? Okay, just okay. So the expenses, and then we have to figure out exactly fine-tune what our expenses are, since we're still just underway and trying to figure out exactly what those will be. So DeKalb County has a lot to do with what our millage rate will eventually be set in terms of what they set. We now have a little bit more information about the host credit, which another piece of good news is that it's going to be a little bit higher percentage this year, which I think will help all homeowners. And we don't know exactly the amount that we will be getting from the host funds, although we've heard from the county informally that it too will be higher than what was expected in the earlier feasibility study. So I take all of those as good news that we can still provide the kind of services that we'd like to see for our citizens, and yet still keep taxes as low as possible. So that's our goal. We want to hear from you. Let me just tell you procedurally, we will, if you want to speak, which we want to hear from you, you need to fill out a little card. Who's got the cards? Daniel?
They're in the table.
Okay, they were on the table out front. Just fill out a little card, give them to Daniel, this nice young man up front here. And when we call your name, you will have 3 minutes. Our esteemed clerk will be the timekeeper.
Daniel will.
Oh, okay. Daniel's going to be doing that too. And we look forward to hearing from you. Is that it?
I just want
has a presentation.
So with that, I'd like to introduce our finance director, Bonnie Klein, who's going to give us a little bit more background. Some of this information is just hot off the press, and it continues to come in and be updated daily. So you can, again, see how this is kind of a moving target.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, everybody. I am Bonnie Klein, the Finance Director for the city. Mayor Pro Tem has given a good introduction to what I'm going to talk about, but what I'm going to present hopefully will answer a few questions I've been hearing and clear up some misconceptions, I hope.
Can everybody hear Bonnie okay? Okay, great.
Basically, I've got 4 items I'd like to talk about. What the state defines as a tax increase, the notion that the city tax is going to be on top of the county taxes, how our millage rate compares to the other DeKalb cities, and then the host tax update that we received from the county, which is good news. It will reduce the taxes overall for property tax for homeowners. The state law is what defines what a tax increase is. Basically, if your millage rate times the tax digest is higher this year than it was last year at the same millage rate, the state calls that a tax increase. So this is straight out of the paper from Dunwoody's, their ads for the tax digest and setting the millage. You can see the tax rate, and they've said that the millage rate's going to be the same. They intend to adopt the same 2.74, but the fact that their tax digest went up, they have to call that a tax increase and advertise it as a tax increase. In fact, I've quoted, this was in their ad, disclosing that they're going to have a tax increase. It says the Dunwoody City Council has tentatively adopted a millage rate which will require an increase in property taxes by 1.9% due solely to the reevaluation of real property tax assessments. So even though the mills didn't go up, the state considers that a tax increase. So when we get to us, as Mayor Pro Tem said, we had no digest last year. It was all DeKalb County. We had no tax rate. So if that mill rate on that chart was 0.00001, the state would still consider that a tax increase, and we would have to advertise it that way. That 3.35 I've used in the example is just a place setter. The millage rate has not been set, won't be set until it's voted on July 8th. This is just the maximum that's in the charter. I needed a number. The state required that I put a number in there, and so that's the number I used. This is kind of a chart on how your bill will change. You won't see the same things that you saw in your 2012 bill. You will see on the left side a new line for city tax. Again, in this example, I'm using the 3.35 just to have a rate to use. It may not be that, but in this example, the city gives you an extra $20,000 homestead exemption, and that's off the assessed value. So on a $250,000 home, you're really paying taxes on $80,000. So at that rate, it would be $268 in this example. On the other side, if you looked at your 2012 bill and compared it to the estimated tax for 2013, you won't see the line for police services and the unincorporated. Those two together add up to 4.13 mils, but they are subject to and benefit by the host credit. So I didn't want to compare 268 to 372 because there would be a credit. So you're really adding 268, subtracting 127, just in this example. The difference will go down as the millage rate goes down, or on a less expensive home. Say on a $100,000 home, the difference would be about $5. This was just an example I chose. And in this case...
I'm sorry, going back to that one, your bottom line on the DeKalb side, is that net savings or net taxes?
It's really net savings between the 372 and then apply the host. 127 will be missing from your tax bill, but 268 will be added.
If I subtract 372 from 245, then...
Well, you're not going to get the whole 372 credit because they're going to reduce it by, in this example, 0.66. So I didn't want to compare.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to give credit for that host credit, because that's really what would come out. So in this example, on that $250,000 house, you would pay $141 more if that was the only thing on your tax bill, which it's not. So I'll talk more about that in a second. And just this kind of illustrates that when you get your tax bill, the big part of it is the school taxes, obviously. That's more than half of the pie. The county part all the different parts, which is fire, Grady Hospital, all the county parts, is 16.75, and then the city, again, just for this example, is 3.35. If a rate less than that's adopted, that slice will get even smaller. I got this chart from the county. Actually, it just had the first column, and I added the other ones. Different cities have different, actually, county rates and school rates, depending on what kind of services they get from the county. But I thought it might be interesting to see, like take Decatur, for example. They don't pay county taxes, county school taxes, because they have their own school system. So you'll see their city taxes are higher than other cities. I thought that was interesting, and I thought this was let's see. This one here is sorted lowest total to largest. And you can see Brookhaven at the max of 3.35, which I keep saying is a placeholder, is second to Dunwoody in DeKalb County. And those cities like Decatur and the city of Atlanta that's in DeKalb County, they'll pay school taxes, they just don't pay them to DeKalb. So I didn't include it in, just in this chart. All right, here's an example. This is an estimated bill that came out just recently, in the last few weeks. When DeKalb ran the bills, they used the host credit that was in place last year, which was 0.548. So we got an estimated tax bill for about $5,700. When the real tax bill comes out, it's going to have the 0.66, which is, they've announced is going to be the host credit. So I wish this could be neater, but I just wanted to show you the math. When you up that credit to 0.66, you end up saving about $268 between the estimated bill and what the actual bill is going to look like based on what we know today. County operations, the hospital, and the fire are the taxes that benefit with the host credit.
Can you just explain a little bit more that the credit that goes towards your this host credit has gone from, I believe, 59%?
Well, last year it was right at 55%.
Oh, 55%, and this year it's
66 is what they're saying.
66%.
Right.
And I believe that's because, and correct me, because the sales tax revenues are up?
Yes. I would think primarily that's the reason.
Which is good news, which
It's very
means
good.
because sales tax revenues are up, and all of our sales tax, unlike some of the other cities that have the loss tax, we have the host tax, which is a homestead option sales tax, goes completely to try to roll back or give you a credit from your property tax. So the credit they're giving you is, they're upping it from 55 to 66%.
So
which is good news for all of us.
And more than half, that means more than half of your property tax is getting waived with that host on the categories that are subject to the host.
Right. I saw in the paper the other day that DeKalb has the lowest property tax in the metro area when you factor in this host rate. Sometimes if you just look at the raw millage rates, it doesn't reflect that, but once you add in this, what is really a 66% credit now, it really takes it right off your homestead, your home property tax.
Right, very, very big benefit. So I just wanted to give a few facts. Anybody have questions or comments?
I have a question. If you can go back to that slide that showed the pie chart of the proportion of the millage rates. You've got the actual mills number on there. Do you know what the percentages of those pie, is that pie reflective of actual percentages?
Yeah, it is. So the schools are 55% or so.
Yeah.
I'd have to get out my calculator.
Counties, maybe 40. You've also got some other ones, though, that's not representative of the entire tax because the bond obligations and...
No, the bonds are in the county. What's not on here is like the sanitation, stormwater, the fees that are on the street lights, things that would be on hospitals in the county portion.
You've got all that in the county
right.
portion.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that the city manager and I were at a meeting yesterday of city leaders with the DeKalb CEO, and he confirmed that there was no plan to up the county millage rate this year. We've heard that maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. It might just be a mill, but and they haven't. In fact, they've delayed yet again their setting of the millage rate until the 16th. But he assured us that, and so did their chief financial officer, that the county would not be raising its tax rate. So, again, I take that as another piece of good news. I think so.
Can you go forward a couple slides to the one where you had the one more? Do you know what you've talked about the host reducing your example about the net taxes? What would DeKalb's total net tax be after factoring in that host? Do you know offhand? It's 4519 there. What would that be if the host was figured into that total?
Well, see, it would only be on the part of the 2121. Remember, it's just the hospital, county operations, and the fire. So it would not, you don't get credit for the schools or the city part. So,
But for county, doesn't it also figure into police and unincorporated, which are two things that are
you're right,
yeah,
police
going
and
back to your-
unincorporated rate
okay.
would be in there.
So do you know what that? Have you seen a number for what the net would be? What that 4519 would be with the host figured in?
No, I'd have to figure it because there are some bonds that you don't get host credit for too, which is in that 2121. So I probably could. I don't know. I don't think I'd have to look at it individually because I'm not sure it would be accurate just to apply the host when there's other stuff in there that's not.
I think for the purposes of this hearing, it's important for us to remember that, while a lot of this is really good information for the citizens to understand, the purposes of this public hearing are, I think, to talk about the issues that we can control, and those are the city of Brookhaven issues. We've got the revenue side, the millage rate and the tax rate that we apply, and then the expense side of what we spend as a city. Those are the things which we as a council can have some direct input on, and that's where we'd like to hear from the citizens. What about those two factors can we do that that y'all want to see changed on either side? So,
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Bonnie. All right, with that, we'll open it up to hearing from you all. Daniel, can you call off the first name?
Don Green. Can I give handouts? You can
Sure.
submit 'em to the clerk.
Yeah, submit them to the.
I love a good spreadsheet.
What you got in front of you is the tax bill summary from my taxes in 2012. Paid $59.24.90. I got my estimate in the mail, and it's gone from that number to $61.91.65. If I look at line item by line item, school, county, hospital, county bonds, whatever these other bonds are, fire, state tax, sanitation, storm, there's no increase there. The only thing that's increased is the tax district and the police went from $263.62 to now we're paying a city tax of $530.37. So there's a $266.75 tax increase for me at my house. And if you look at service for service, line item for line item, that's a 50% increase from what I paid for basically the same services last year. So I don't know where you come off that we're not getting a tax increase. And I'm really disappointed that the mayor's not here today to hear all this. Thank you.
All right, it's public hearing, I think we can comment.
Can we comment?
William Johnson.
I just had a few general remarks. I don't have any facts and figures here. But the formation of the city of Brookhaven, which I was very much in favor of at the time, and I'm still in favor of it, was so mainly as a way to reduce our taxes. And that was right and proper, because I think all of us understand that DeKalb County has not been a very good monitor of how money is spent and what's done with it. And they waste a lot, and they spend too much on this and too much on that. So I'm going to be extremely disappointed if the end result of this is that we do in fact have a tax increase. And as the gentleman just pointed out, what counts is the dollar figure on the bottom line at the end of the day. Is it going to be higher this year than it was last year? That's the main thing. Or is it going to be lower this year than it was last year? Perhaps I was naive to think that we could have another level of government and still be able to reduce the amount of money that's spent on things by the government. And that's what I want to see happen. I want to see the council to really concentrate on less expenses and smaller government in general. I think that's the only way that you're going to be able to cover the extra expenses involved in paying your tremendous salaries and the mayor and so forth. But so I'm a little dismayed to see things coming out like the gentleman before me pointed out, that it's not really going to be less, it's going to be more. I understand this is the first year and things are different, and so there needs to be some leeway for that. But the main thing that I'm concerned about is smaller government and less services. I mean, the county provides a lot more services than I want or need. So I'd be happy with less services all around and less money spent. Thank you.
Bonnie, could I just ask you to clarify, is this the tax bill, like the gentleman I'm sure you're talking about too, which showed this kind of increase, is that predicated on the maximum rate allowed by our charter, which we haven't set yet? Could you just clarify that?
Yeah,
Thank you, sir.
In this, it's set on the maximum rate allowed by charter, and it's also got the old host credit of 55 cents instead of 66%. So as the millage rate goes down, if it's set anywhere lower, then the difference will be less.
Okay.
Art Freeman.
My name is Art Freeman. I'm a homeowner in Pine Hills. And I'd like to address another side of the coin. I certainly do not wish to demean the folks who are looking at what they think is an increase in taxes and their concern about that. But the real issue is not the collection of the taxes, but what is the services that we're going to get for those taxes. I can say that in the short time that we have been a city, I have seen efficiencies and I have seen things done more cost effective that could not have been accomplished by DeKalb County. If we reflect back as to why we first voted for the city, one of the main issues was that we now had control over how our money was going to be spent, and that it was going to be spent locally, and it was going to be done efficiently. And if that means that our taxes go up slightly, if the value is there, I don't see what the problem is. From a business perspective, I am seeing our city grow before my very eyes. In a very short period of time, we've had 5 or 6 new businesses come into our city. I see that we have a new hotel that is being built in our city, which is going to increase our tax base. I've seen the county raise their, what we call head and bed tax by, I think it's 3% to 8%. At some point, we're going to do the same thing. This first year, we all recognized is a troubling year because we went into it unknown. We had a study, we had an idea, but we did not know. And I can tell you from a personal perspective, having worked very closely with the creation of this city, I am tickled to death where we're going, and I really don't see that we're having a tax increase. I think we're having tax efficiency. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have public comment cards? Stephanie Miller.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me opportunity to speak to you once again and by holding this public hearing yet again. I know you've been busy. What I'd like to speak to you tonight is exactly what Councilman Bates said earlier in his remarks. I'm here to speak to you tonight about city taxes, the millage rate, and any dollars that may come out of my wallet that you have control over. I'm not here to talk about the county or the school or any school board or any of the taxes that may be part of my total property tax bill. I spoke Monday night and at the hearing, and thanks to the Brookhaven Post and the reporter, I've been flooded with emails and phone calls from concerned neighbors and friends, and they're asking me a lot of questions about the millage rate and the taxes. And the main concern is that the mayor and 3 out of 4 council members ran on a platform of lower taxes, and that's what was promised. And that means the total rate I pay with the city is less than the total rate I paid before the city. That includes everything from host credits to franchise fees to whatever city taxes may be pulled out of my home. And I received a mailer from the city of Brookhaven, and the mayor stated, "Our goal remains the same, for Brookhaven taxpayers to pay equal or less than their previous tax rate while receiving the same quality city services." So I'm just requesting from you that the millage rate offset all the additional money that I have to pay because I now live in the city of Brookhaven. I'm going to lose a portion of my host credit, and I now have increased as well as additional franchise fees. So my main point and what I'm really asking you to do is just look at, when you vote on the millage rate on July 8th, I believe, is it still set for that date? Okay. Just please make sure that the total rate that I pay with the city is less than the total rate that I paid before the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't have any more, Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a question for Bonnie. Bonnie, are you familiar with what the unincorporated millage rates have been in the past in DeKalb County, going back to, say, 2009? You know, and those, has there been a trend? Do you know?
I actually have a chart back at the office. I don't have it with me.
I think that'd be a good thing for the citizens to be aware of, because it does give some context to the rates of the citizens over a period of time that are reflective of the tax burdens of the citizens when we were unincorporated compared to the tax burden as an incorporated city.
Okay.
When you take a snapshot in a one-year transition, it can be difficult to get a good gauge of, you know, has this trend been increasing taxes or decreasing taxes for the unincorporated citizens?
Okay, I'll add that for the next.
So next time, I think that'd be a good thing to add in.
I also think we need to take into consideration any credits during those years. Let's show what what residents actually paid out of their pocket. You know, we have seen through your presentation that there's some differences with host credits and those types of
I can
things. So
incorporate
let's look at what they wrote the check for.
You're right, that's the true
Because that's
cost.
really what matters
Exactly.
is the numbers are the numbers. What did they write the check for?
Gotcha. Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Good.
I agree. It's all about the bottom line.
Sure.
Any other comments, questions? Bonnie, did you want to add anything, or, okay?
This,
Well,
So,
actually, I would like to make just a reminder that the vote will be on July 8th, Monday, July 8th at 1:30, and right before that at 12:30, there'll be the fourth and final opportunity for public input.
to the citizens in attendance, I keep saying to the residents in attendance, this is your opportunity to let us know what your priorities are. We certainly would like to hear them, and we certainly will take them into consideration as we go forward to set a budget and set a millage rate. So if you want to let us know what your thoughts are, what is important to you, then we certainly would appreciate that, and we'll take that into consideration going forward.
and I would just remind you that, all of us are very accessible by email and phone. You can pull up the city website. It's brookhavenga.gov, and all of our contacts are listed. Please feel free to give us your thoughts, your ideas. We're going to be struggling with this, taking our sharp pencils to it. I think we're all committed to really getting that bottom line, exactly as you all have said, certainly equal to, I don't know if we can get it less, but we certainly are going to try to get that bottom line down. Like I say, I take it as good news that our tax digest looks very healthy. The sales tax revenues are coming in. On the other hand, we've got a lot of citizens who are anxious to take over our parks and spend some money really giving us the kind of quality parks that everybody wanted, or a lot of people wanted. People have been emailing me wanting to know when they're going to start paving roads and paving sidewalks. We have a lot of unmet needs that in this community. Just leaving municipal court here earlier today, we were driving up Buford Highway, and I was saddened by how long stretches of Buford Highway that don't have sidewalks, and yet there were a lot of people walking, and we've got to meet some of these needs. We can't do it all at once. These are all long-term needs, but these are all the eventual goals of our city. But please know that we are all dedicated to keeping our taxes as low as possible, and we are all taxpayers too. So. We feel the pain too. Thank you.
I move that we close public hearing, or you've got to close it first.
All right. So
You simply couldn't close the public hearing.
Okay, well then I will, in my power as Mayor Pro Tem, close the public hearing.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second.
We are adjourned.